Alright guys, here's what just happened. I've recorded for 10 minutes, but my mic wasn't connected to my phone, and so I have to record again. Today's day 2 of 4 where I show you my workouts, and today's cardio and abs. After the 4 days I will go into the specific why I split the workouts up the way I do, but today I'm gonna be talking specifically about abs and cardio. My cardio history is pretty long. I've been playing football for more than 15 years and then I stopped, but I went for runs besides football for years, and during Corona I went for a run every 2 days for 3 months straight. And I've been running like 12, 13 kilometers below 4 minutes for every kilometer. So that means I ran 12 kilometers in about 45, 46 minutes, something like that. So that was pretty quick. I stopped going for runs about 1 year ago because I stopped playing football and I didn't have a purpose anymore, but I realized cardio is one of the most important things, both for your health and for losing weight. If you want to lose weight, if you do cardio, like that's the fastest way to lose weight. If you go for a run for 1 hour and you push not to your absolute limit, but just go for 90%, you will burn about 1,000 calories. And 1,000 calories is pretty much in just 1 hour. Now, of course, I go running in a hilly area, so there's always a difference if you're running flat or running up and down. But still, no matter how much calories you're burning pretty much. How I like to approach cardio is very simple, and it's very simple for you too. So if you haven't been running for ages and you don't know what your pace is, you don't know how far you can run, start out with the first run where you don't really push any limits. You just go for it, the easiest run you've ever been running, almost as slow as you possibly can, and don't run far. Just do that. And that's your first run. And from that point on, you can start building on top of it. So the next one, you try to have the same pace. So let's say you've been running 24 minutes, 3 kilometers. That means you took 8 minutes for every kilometer. And now you put 1 more kilometer on top of it. So that will mean you would run 4 kilometers in 32 minutes. If you're not familiar with kilometers because you're from the States or somewhere else, you can do the same with miles, but a mile is pretty long. So I will probably cut it down to half miles. So go for a run, look at how much you take for a mile, and then do your next run half a mile more and just add half a mile of pace onto it. So if you took 10 minutes for a mile or 12 minutes for a mile, then you add half a mile on top of it and you add 6 minutes of running time on top of it. And that means you're running the same pace, but you're increasing your distance. And you can do that until you reach a certain point. In kilometers, that will probably be like 10 kilometers. For miles, it's probably like 6. And then you can start increasing your pace. Increasing your pace means decreasing the time for every kilometer you run. Just do that in simple steps. For kilometers, increase it 1 kilometer at a time. For miles, just half a mile every time. And for the pace, you're free to try whatever fits best. Just make sure that you don't aim for too big of a goal, because if you decrease your pace by like half a minute for every kilometer for one run, you're probably not gonna make it. Rather go for like 5 seconds or 10 seconds for every run. But even that could be a challenging thing if you're actually running at your limit. At some point, if you're doing this principle that I just told you, you will hit your limit. Maybe your first run will be easy and your next 5 runs will be easy because you have a history of running. But at some point, if you increase the distance and then decrease the time, you will hit your limit, and then hitting the next milestone can be pretty tough. So you shouldn't have a too big of a jump. Now, why I do abs next to cardio is basically I try to do it in push or pull workouts, like in between. But the issue is you can't really focus. And what I learned from working out is you really have some specific targets you have to focus on. And if you're doing abs in between, you're likely not going to have that much of focus and that high of an intensity than if you're just doing it specifically. And the good thing about abs is if you do it before cardio, you're already getting your heart rate up, you're already warming up. Obviously, you have to still warm up your legs, but still it's a perfect introduction to going for a run, because if you're just working all day, sitting at a laptop and then going for a run suddenly, it can be a little overwhelming for your whole system. And that's the perfect way to kind of bridge that. So now that this has been recorded and you can hear me talking, let's get into the abs workout, and then after that I will go for a slight run. I had been sick last week, so I'm not gonna go back into my pacing stuff that I just talked to you about. I'm really gonna have a easy run and then do the same approach again. Because if you're being sick, going for a push workout or abs workout, as long as you're not feeling bad, that's fine. But going for a run is way more intense for your heart, and you shouldn't be risking like long-term health effects just because you're over motivated to run. So you can do the same thing again. You go for an easy run where you don't have really constraints. You just look at what feels good, and from that point on you increase your pace again until you're back at your original pace. So for me, I just recently hit the 10 kilometers. I've been running that under 6 minutes for every kilometer, so it took me just about an hour. From that point on, I wanted to increase the pace, so decrease the time. Today I'm not gonna go for 10 kilometers, I'm probably gonna go for 5 or 6 maybe, slowly, and also not the 6-minute pace, but really just how I feel like. And then next time I will try to increase the pace again and then increase the distance, but it's gonna be a quicker adjustment than before because I've just been running 10 kilometers, and so my body should be pretty well adapted to that. And once I hit the 10 kilometers under 60 minutes again, and then I can continue about my plan. So let's get into the abs workout and then for a run. So guys, after warming up, which is pretty basic, pretty simple, but just make sure you stretch out your abs, something like this, which I think is a yoga position. Just make sure that you get a stretch into your abs and also your obliques. After doing that, I basically have 3 exercises, and they're very simple, but they're very effective. And especially the first one is the most effective one. And it looks like this. So you lay on your back flat, make sure that the lower part of your spine is always touching the floor, so you're not doing some hollow stuff. Hands beside your body, and then just pull your legs to your body. Then you do the same thing, but your legs are stretched out, so like this. And then you just continue. And the harder you want it to be, the higher you pick your butt up basically, and the slower you go down. That's really where it gets tough, when you go down very, very slowly. Let me just do some reps and then go to the next exercise. Now the second exercise is similar but different, and it targets your obliques, so not your front part of the abs, but really the side parts. So instead of putting my hands here, I put them here, and I like to do it like this because it's just a little more convenient. Having your legs here, I can stretch them out or leave them like that, and then just twist. And here, the more you stretch out your legs, the harder it will get. And then for the third exercise, I like to do something that targets the upper abs a little more. And it's pretty simple. One thing I focus on is not raising my lower back. I will show it to you. Because most people, they tend to do abs like this. Which is not wrong, it targets the abs. But actually you're making your hip flexors work and not really your abs anymore. And so you don't really have to pick up your whole upper body. You just have to make a crunch like this. So what I do is I'm not really focusing on how many sets or reps I do. I focus more on really feeling the burn and pushing the limit. Obviously, if I'm doing like 30 reps or if I need to have like 10 sets, then something is wrong and I need to switch up the exercise to make it harder. But that's how I work out abs, and now I'm gonna go for a run. There won't be much to talk about, but it will be hard. So the run was okay, about 6 kilometers. Pace was also okay, a bit above 6 minutes for every kilometer, but that's fine. It felt surprisingly good. Like the first 2 kilometers were a bit shaky, but after that it was solid. And that is basically how I work out cardio and abs. And I repeat that every 4 days. Tomorrow I will be back in the calisthenics park to show you my push workout. So see you guys there. Peace.